Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Ask Sharifah Videocast. I am your host, Sharifah Hardie, and we have a very interesting story for you today. Our guest is interesting for sure, but before we go on with our guest, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that's to go ahead and share this interview because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah. That's right, go ahead and share this video because our guest, Andrei Mincov, has a very unique and interesting story. Good afternoon, Andrei. How are you?
I'm great, and it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. Now, I was reading through your bio, and it was one of those times where I felt real intrigued. I felt like there was so much going on behind the scenes. You went from one aspect to another, and all while leading towards success. Can you give us a little bit about your background?
Well, where do I begin, right? It's
Yeah.
been a long journey. Really, this is how this all began. I was sitting on a couch in my room when I was 21 years old, and I was reading a court judgment that said that the radio station that stole my father's music,
Mhm.
in fact, did nothing wrong.
Oh, wow.
Uh, I was asked by my father, who was a famous composer in Russia back
Mhm.
then, to help him sue this radio station after he discovered that they took his song, made it into an ad for Samsung,
Oh, wow.
and they didn't ask his permission. And I've always admired him. And of course, I said yes. I was going to my first law school back then, and really didn't see myself as a lawyer, didn't see that this would become my profession, and really had very little interest in lawyering.
Mhm.
But taking him there and trying to help him was really a very important milestone for me. So I was sitting there reading that judgment that made no sense to me, and the only thing I could think of was that I just failed my father.
Oh, wow.
And so he came into the room, and I really didn't know what he's gonna do. Right? He's gonna yell at me. Is he gonna hit me? Is he gonna, just cheer me up and say that it was all right? Instead, he asked me what I was gonna do with this, and I had no idea. I said, I don't know. I think I said all the right things. I did all the, everything that I should have done. And he says, well, if you're not gonna appeal this, if you're not gonna take this case higher up, you should quit your law school and find yourself a different profession.
Mhm.
And so we did appeal. I had to take this case all the way up to one level below Supreme Court of Russia, and we won eventually in a few years later. And I got so passionate about intellectual property and helping those who create something that hadn't existed before protected, that really that became the only thing I've been doing ever since. So I've been in this industry for over 23 years now. So started as a copyright lawyer for my father, then joined the biggest international law firm in the world, where I did some crazy high caliber work for, Apple, Microsoft, Google, Facebook, J.K. Rowling. If you think of a big name, I've probably done something for them. And then 12 years ago, I decided to leave Russia, leave all that high paying job, and start everything again in Canada.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so I
So
moved
you,
to North America because I wanted to, see what living in a free country, what it means, what it feels like, and had to go back to law school. Did my 3 more years of law school, and only to discover that nobody wanted to hire me when I was done, when I got my lawyer license.
Mhm.
And I'm very competitive, right? When somebody tells me it can't be done, I like watch this. so I started my own firm. This is when I discovered, all the amazing books by Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad,
Mhm.
uh, and Michael Gerber, E-Myth, and all of the, must-read books for entrepreneurs. And I got on this entrepreneurial path. So started my law firm, quickly discovered that the success would not come from me being a better lawyer. The success would come from me becoming a better business owner, a better marketer, better sales guy. And eventually this whole thing evolved into the business that I run today, which is Trademark Factory. The only thing we do now is we help business owners turn their brand names, their logos, their taglines, names of their products, name of their services, names of their features into assets that they can own, that they can defend, and that they can monetize. So that's really the story in a nutshell. But of course, as you say, there's a lot happening in in the background.
Definitely a lot happening in the background, but it's very interesting to me because you go from one aspect to another all the way to where you are now. But one of the things that stood out to me is you started this because you were helping your father. Now,
Yeah.
oftentimes as either children or even adult children, we wound up living somebody else's life, going down their path or just for someone else. Was there ever a point where you had to ask yourself, am I doing this for myself? Is this something I really want to do? Or is this my father's dream?
Well, no, father never wanted me to become it was not his dream for me to become a lawyer, right? If anything, my I started as a musician as well. So I wrote my own music. I used to be in a band. I still love music. I still love writing music. I still love playing music. I just know that I'm not good enough to be to do it professionally, as much as I enjoy. So there was a time when I actually had to make that decision as to who I'm going to be or what I'm going to be. And that was a very difficult time. It was the early 90s when I finished the school and I had to make the decision as to where I'm going to head to. And so back then, so my dad was, he wrote music for over 160 movies in Russia. So he
Oh,
was
wow.
a really well-known composer, but early 90s, Soviet Union collapsed and there was almost no money that people wanted to pay. And so we were going through some tough times. And so I said to myself, you know what? I want to have a profession that's going to feed me regardless of, because lawyers always make decent money, right?
Lawyers always eat.
Right, exactly. So that was kind of my assumption. And so I went to the law school with that in mind. But again, I was seeing no fun in this. I did not enjoy just learning law by itself. And then when my dad caught them, this allowed me to pretty much combine the things that I liked. I love law for the logic. I love law for the persuasion. I love law for putting together the pieces of the puzzle. That I love. Right. And when I was able to combine that with music, when I was able to combine that with creativity, that really created that spark in me. And I actually had an opportunity to test all this in my second law school in Canada, because I had to go back for the full 3 years. So I had to take a bunch of courses. And I said to myself, you know what? It's a perfect opportunity, as you said, to test. Did I enjoy intellectual property just because of my dad? Did I just do it because it so happened? So why don't you be open to everything else, all other areas of law, and see if maybe, you're just becoming a traditional lawyer. And I hated most of it. For whatever reason, the only other subject I enjoyed was insurance law, probably because it's so dry. But like I said, when I graduated, and this is probably one of the reasons why I did not get hired by law firms in Canada, because I knew exactly what I wanted to do, right? I was set on, this is what I've been doing. This is what I'm good at. This is the only thing I care about. And that didn't land me a job, but that landed me the future that I could only hope for. Because right now, with what we're doing for Trademark Factory, with Trademark Factory, I've never been more excited. I've never been happier. I've never been more successful, really.
Oh, that is so wonderful. I love to hear people's stories of their journeys. And that's what I do here on Ask Sharifah Videocast is share other people's journeys because the majority of the people who tune in are also entrepreneurs. And many of them are just beginning. They're just starting out and they want to see that someone else has actually done it. So trademark is one of those areas that not many people are too sure of. Now, can you give us, are there any hard and fast rules about when you should trademark? Maybe you're starting a company, should you get a trademark immediately on, say, your designs, maybe your logo, your product, or maybe do you try it out, see if it works? Is there a process people should go through?
Yeah, so here's my take on this.
Mhm.
There is no reason in the world to spend a minute of your life or a dollar out of your pocket building a brand you don't own.
Okay.
Because building a brand you don't own means having a brand that can be taken away from you like this. It means a brand that you can't stop your competitors stealing from you. It means a brand you can't monetize, right? I'm not saying that as soon as you have an idea, you got to go out and trademark it.
Mhm.
What I am saying is as soon as you figure out that you got something, a product or a service that the market would be interested in, and as soon as you figure out that you came up with a name that people resonate with, before you start, any significant marketing campaigns, before you start building and delivering on a certain scale, you got to make sure that you can own it, because by the time you've built it to the level where you want it to be, if you haven't protected it, it's going to be too late, right? Every time somebody comes to me and says, Andrei, it's urgent, we really need to file this, I know it's too late, right? With trademarks, urgent doesn't work. If we're, as entrepreneurs, one of the things I learned is to emulate successful businesses,
Mhm.
right? So if you look at any successful business, any one, you will notice that they're all trademarked. And most of them filed their first trademark before they saw any success,
Okay.
right? If you look at Uber, they filed their first trademark 2 months before they launched.
Okay.
So there was nothing, just a dream. When you look at Coca-Cola, they filed their first trademark in 1892 when they were selling 9 drinks a day. Right? I call it a lemonade stand with a dream. Right? When you look at Stripe, the credit card processor,
Mhm.
8 months before they launched. Facebook, same month. Google, same month. So they all did it before anybody cared about them, because they knew that if they were to become the next big thing, they had to treat their business, to treat their brand as potentially the next big thing. And look, the investment, and something that most people don't understand, investment in trademarks is not something that is unaffordable, right?
My next question, because trademarks, people seem to be overwhelmed. They feel as if they have to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to protect themselves with legal fees and filing fees.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the affordability of trademarks.
Yeah. So first thing I want to say is that we're certainly not trying to win the race to the bottom in terms of pricing. Trademark Factory. That's not what makes us different. I mean, there are companies where you can file your trademark for a lot less than with Trademark Factory.
Mhm.
What makes us different is that we will file your trademark with one flat fee that's going to cover everything from start to finish. So you don't have to worry about paying more and more and more on the hourly basis, which is the case with pretty much every other model. And you'll know that you're going to get 100% money back guarantee if after all of this, your trademark doesn't go through. So that's really what makes us different. But even in that, with this preamble that I gave you, with this intro of us not being the cheapest, you can get a trademark done from start to finish for $3,000. There's not a single business in North America that can't afford that, right? If you can't afford $3K to protect your most valuable asset, it's not a business, it's a hobby.
Right.
It's not me being arrogant. It's just a reality, because if you look at your credit card statements, what you spend your money on every month, you will definitely find things that were less important than protecting your brand.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
uh, but I've hear from a lot of people who talk to us like, well, I thought it would be like $20,000, like $10,000. Not even close.
Mhm.
Not even close. And the good thing about trademarks is it's the only type of intellectual property that you can have forever.
Mhm.
All other types of intellectual property expire. Patents are very short-lived. Copyrights expire. Trade secrets, all of that stuff, except for trademarks. Remember I mentioned Coca-Cola, 1892? They're renewing the same trademark every 10 years. And now their brand, just the brand itself, is worth over $70 billion.
Oh, wow.
So not the factories, not the people, not the recipe, not their transportation facilities, just the brand itself.
Mhm.
So
So for people who aren't familiar with trademarks, you hear people toss out different expressions all the time or different names, and they may say something, that others may tend to call very general or generic. What
yeah,
are some guidelines as far as to what you can and cannot trademark?
that's a great question. So unique is better than great. This is really the guidance. Uh, if you came up with a generic name or a very descriptive name, chances are it's probably not going to go through. So there's a very big difference in terms of the name you want for your domain name,
Mhm.
right? Like everyone, like in the early days of internet, everyone wanted to have their, name of their product or service.com.
Yes.
And like flowers.com or law.com and stuff like that. But this is not something that you can trademark, because the purpose of a trademark is to allow the market to tell your products and services apart from everybody's else's services that are the same. So if you were to think of a moment, let's say somebody completely copied your product or your service. They're doing exactly the same thing for exactly the same price, same features, same benefits. A trademark should be able to tell me as a potential consumer how to tell your product and service apart from everyone else's. And this is really the difference between Uber and Lyft,
Right.
Coca-Cola and Pepsi, right? The product or the service is virtually identical.
Right.
It's the branding that pushes me towards one or the other. It's how I know it's one or the other. Chrome, Firefox. I mean, we can go on and on and on through these examples, but what you want for your brand is something that people can remember, right? All great brands are memorable. All great brands are connected to a viable business. So it's not great if you just came up with a great name. It's not going to automatically make your business great if you're selling something that nobody wants to buy.
Right.
But that's another part of a great brand. And the third part of a great brand, it's well protected. So if you don't protect it, it's just going to be copied from you, and you're not going to have any value out of that brand very soon, which happened with a lot of businesses who thought, well, let's wait till we get to 10,000 clients, 100,000 clients, whatever the numbers, right? This is your question in the beginning. It's not about how much money you're going to make or how many clients you're going to make, you're going to have for your business before you start thinking about it. It's about you having a vision, what you're doing with it, right? If you're planning to stay small, if you're okay with getting all your business from word of mouth, and so somebody tells your friend, or because you're maybe a corner store and you just get occasional business that way, you don't need a trademark. But if you're planning to get a lot of business, how is it going to happen? You need to have a lot of people who know about you.
Right.
Right? And you can't have a lot of people know about you and not have some of your competitors steal that from you if that's really clicking, right? So that's why if your model is, well, I want to make sure that I get business from across the world. I want to have a business that people will remember and will share. If they're not sharing your personal name, right? If you're an entrepreneur, you're just starting out and everyone knows you as just, Bob Smith. It's okay. Nobody's going to take Bob Smith away from you.
Right.
But if you're marketing under a certain brand that you came up with, there's a reason you came up with that brand.
Mm-hmm.
There is a reason you chose this name over some other name. So give yourself some credit. What you came up with is not worthless.
Right.
And you got to treat it as such.
Absolutely. A lot of wonderful advice. Now, Andrei, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I like to do at the end of every show is just allow my guests the opportunity to speak right to the viewers, let them know your website address, let them know how to contact you, and let them know what you want them to take away from your interview.
Okay, cool. So let's start with the last one. I want them to take away pretty much what we started with. Don't waste a minute of your life or a dollar of your pocket building a brand you don't own. Maybe even building a brand you can't own. How do you even know if a brand is trademarkable? So I came up with a proprietary process. We call it TM's into R's brand protection formula. It has 6 steps of what you need to do to take your brand from an idea and a dream to a trademark registration certificate that you can own and enforce. The first step is for you to figure out what it is that you want to protect, whether it's a name, a logo, or a tagline, and everything else. And you can see that in the materials on our website is how we actually get it done for you. So once you figure out or close to figuring out what you have in mind, what I would suggest you go to trademarkfactory.com, our website, and book a free call with one of our strategy advisors. And what they're going to do, and the call is free. What they're going to do is they're going to ask you a bunch of questions and understand exactly where you're coming from. Listen to your story. Listen to what it is that you're trying to build. And they'll be able to suggest to you the best path forward to make sure that you are building something that you'll be able to look back at and say, you know what? I started early. Nobody believed in me, but I did. And now here I am. So that's my suggestion. Go to trademarkfactory.com and book that free call.
That's my suggestion as well. Go to trademarkfactory.com and book a free session with either Andrei or one of his wonderful representatives. Andrei, I want to thank you for being today's guest on Ask Sharifah Videocast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. And I can't wait to see what's going to come out of this.
Yes, it was. We'll get it over to you as soon as possible. But I want to thank all our viewers for tuning in to watching the show. Again, go ahead and share this interview because friends do not let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah. I especially have to thank my sponsor, Fireball Approves. Before you rent anything, before you go on any travel, rental, property, vacation, please go to fireballapproves.com to make sure the online listing is legit and not a scam. Again, that's fireballapproves.com. If you're interested in being a guest for sponsorship opportunities or to watch more of my interviews, visit the website at asksharifah.com. Until then, everyone have a wonderful day.
Boom.